Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this webinar on drones and other new technologies in the petrochemical industry. This webinar is co-organized by the STEM Alliance, Scientix, and the European Petrochemical Association. My name is Bjorn Bachmann, and I'm coordinating European SchoolNet's activities in the STEM Alliance, which is an initiative that brings together education and industry. Together with us in the room, we have my colleague Yekaterina Shestitko, who will be supporting this webinar from a technical point of view. So if you have any issues with your audio or connection, please do not hesitate to send her a message in the Q&A window. But most importantly, it is with great pleasure that I'm welcoming our speaker for today, Martijn Schouten from Vopak, who will give the main presentation on the application of drones in the petrochemical industry. Thank you so much for being here and presenting today. Now, let me continue with some technical aspects. To get a greater experience out of this webinar, you can use live captions and subtitles. To activate these, you just need to go to your video controls and select captions or subtitles, and I put a screenshot here. You will also see a question and answers window on your screen. If you don't see it, make sure to open it, because we will be sharing useful information and links with you there throughout the webinar. Also, as this is an interactive webinar, please feel free to share your questions to the speakers in the window. We will be collecting them and address them to the speaker towards the end of this webinar. And here is already the first link we're sharing with you. In the Q&A window, you can click on the signature list to validate that you participated in this webinar and receive a certificate of participation. This is to ensure that we can prove this event took place and so that we can continue to organize events like this one in the future. Also, we will send you the feedback form after the event to the email that you provide, and this is the only way to get a certificate of participation. Let's move to our agenda for today. We will begin with a brief introduction of the European Petrochemical Association, who is co-organizing this event. We will then start with the main part of today's webinar, with a short STEM career interview with our expert speaker, Martijn Schouten. I will then ask him about his job, what skills are needed, and what kind of advice he has for teachers and parents, before he will present some insights on how drones are used in his company. Finally, we move to our question and answer session, in which we will address the questions from the audience related to the presentation, as well as STEM careers and advice to students, teachers, and career counselors. So please share your questions with us in the Q&A window. Let me now introduce the European Petrochemical Association. First of all, you might be curious to know what petrochemicals are. Petrochemicals are chemical products obtained by refining petroleum, which can be transformed to various goods that are made of plastic, rubber, or nylon, as well as medicine, paint, or cosmetics. The European Petrochemical Association, or EPCA in short, gathers main global producers of petrochemicals, as well as companies that ensure these products come to us via trucks, trains, boats, or planes. One of the members of EPCA is here with us today. And I'm now happy to introduce our expert speaker, Martijn Schouten. Martijn Schouten is a senior manager from the Netherlands. He started his international career with Royal Vopak, where he worked on large energy projects, leading new business development in Asia out of Singapore, as well as leading a large organization in Thailand. Currently, he is responsible for commercializing Vopak's IT business globally, as well as investing in promising IT and OT startups. Martijn, thank you so much for joining us today.
My pleasure.
Hi. So I have a couple of questions. First of all, can you tell us in a few words what this job is about?
Yeah, of course. So Vopak is a tank storage company, which means we have limited experience in IT, but we see the promising developments in the field of IT, in data, and also the operational technology. So to advance our business for the future, we want to commercialize our knowledge in the IT space. And I've been asked to set up the commercial business for that on a global basis. Secondly, we also know that startup companies, they can advance very fast with new technologies, faster than big companies like Vopak can do. So we are therefore investing in these type of companies that are in the field of IT and operational technology. And yeah, I'm performing the investments in these companies, and then together with these companies, we try to make their technologies available worldwide to our company. And therefore, yeah, we can accelerate the developments of new technology within Vopak.
And what would you say are the professional and personal key skills needed for this job?
Well, yeah, of course, many, but first of all, you have to have a passion for technology. So it's not so much that you need to understand exactly how, on every aspect of technology things work, but you need to want to learn and continue to learn about new technology. So that's very important. I think strong analytical skill sets are required, because that will allow you to grasp big amounts of data, different contexts, and advance your position. You have to have a passion to engage with different cultures. So doing business is not your own country, it is really globally. So you have to adapt to different cultures and be willing and also brave enough to go out to different countries and really experience different people, different cultures, and enjoy that as well. So I think it's a broad skill set, but be brave and go out and try to understand and then move forward.
And finally, do you have any advice to teachers and parents on how they can support their students and children?
I think it's please support children or students with being exposed to new technologies. So be exposed to drones, but also make use of everything that is available within the European Union to learn about new technologies. So also I came from the Netherlands, but we had the Erasmus program, so I could study abroad, I could learn about new cultures, and that is all available to everybody within the European Union. So of course, do your best at school, and also the teachers really encourage students to learn more, but also make use of what is available, because there's so many different programs that you can use to grow your knowledge and careers, like this what we're doing today, that there are a lot of opportunities. So please make use of those opportunities and encourage everybody to make use of it.
Thanks a lot for these really valuable insights, and many thanks for your answers. We now move on to the actual presentation. And at this point, Martijn will tell us more about the use of drones in the petrochemical industry. Martijn, the floor is all yours, and you have 25 minutes now.
Okay, thank you very much, Björn. So today I will present on the application of drones in the petrochemical industry. And to do so, I will first introduce a little bit about Vopak, so that you know exactly what the company does and why drones are of benefit. Then we'll focus on the drones itself. But drones are a tool, they're not the end of what we want to achieve. So the digital twin will definitely be part of this presentation. And finally, we'll have time enough for questions. So I'm looking forward to all your questions and hope I can give you all the answers you need. To tell you a little bit about Vopak's future, I would like to first introduce, with a small movie, the history of the company, as it will explain a lot what we're doing. Björn, please share the video.
The story of our 400-year-old hat. In the 17th century, Amsterdam was the center of world trade. It was the beginning of the golden age of the Republic of the Seven United Netherlands. Ships from all over the world transported their cargo to the Republic. Off the coast of Texel, a small island north of the Netherlands, the cargo of these large, deep-keeled merchant vessels was transferred onto shallow barges, which brought the goods to the port of Amsterdam. Having arrived on the canals, the cargo had to be unloaded. It often comprised a variety of products, ranging from sugar, coffee, cacao and tobacco to silk, hemp and whale bones. The goods were packed into barrels, caskets or bales and taken to the weighhouse. Here, the goods were weighed and inspected by the weighers, who determined how much weighage needed to be paid. Then the goods were taken to warehouses, where they were stored until there was a buyer. The men who carried, dragged or carted the goods were the carriers. A cooperation between a number of these carriers was called a storehouse. By working together as a company, the carriers were able to make deals with traders to secure more work. It cost a lot of money to buy into a storehouse, but in return, the carrier gained security. Companies, for example, provided money for a sick brother, and even a widow's pension if he were to die. In order to distinguish themselves from their competitors, the storehouse brothers all wore the same coloured hat. As in those days almost everyone wore a hat, this was a logical system. The traders could recognize the companies that worked for them by the colour of their hat. For this reason, they became known as the Red Hat Storehouse, the White Hat Storehouse, or the Blue Hat Storehouse. The oldest predecessor of Vopak.
So that is the history of our company, so more than 400 years. And what is really exciting is that actually the company has been in the same business for more than 400 years, and that's the business of storing vital products for our customers. But of course, it doesn't look today anymore as it did in the movie. Today it looks very different. Vopak is storing liquid bulk petrochemicals in its tank terminal facilities around the world. Most of you might not know what a tank terminal is, so I'll take you through. Here you see a picture of one of our facilities in the port of Rotterdam, where we receive with large jetties, big seagoing vessels that come with petrochemicals. So we load and unload these petrochemicals at these jetties. The product will then go to storage tanks, and these storage tanks are equipped fully to handle the product that will be stored. And you can imagine that these are, for example, 50-meter high storage tanks, and maybe with a width of 60 meters. So they're quite large facilities. And finally, the product, after it's being stored, it will go to the end customers of our customers. So we will take care of loading petrochemicals, oil, chemicals, or other products into trucks, into pipelines, where the product goes to factories. And in the factories that they make products we use every day, so plastics or gasoline for your car or kerosene for planes, so that everybody can use the product. It also means that maybe things you have today in your classroom or at home, a little bit has gone through a Vopak tank at some point in time. Now, what is then our role in the petrochemical supply chain? If you go from left to right, the petrochemical supply chain is quite a big chain. You have the feedstock and the production. So the oil wells where crude oil is produced or received from the ground. Then you have a process of gathering all the crude and go through refineries where different types of products are made out of the crude oil. That product is then shipped by ships or by trucks or by rail, most likely to Vopak storage tanks, where we store the product safely and finally distribute that to the end customers. So our role really is in this part of the supply chain, and you will see us in ports worldwide. Oh. If you then look at what type of terminals you have, we have 4 different types, and they're all serving distinct purposes. So first you have industrial terminals. So you have one terminal that serves maybe 20 different petrochemical factories. So Vopak takes care of the logistics for all these factories, so they don't have to build their own terminals and jetties, etc. We take care of that. Then we have terminals where we store liquefied natural gas and liquefied petroleum gas. Now that's liquefied natural gas is methane, which is cooled by minus 160 degrees to become liquid. And then you can store it in a storage tank. Now, Vopak has the capability to safely do so. Then we have chemical terminals, which store the chemicals which will go to the factories in different countries. And finally, we have oil terminals, where oil products are stored as well. Now, all these terminals that will result in flows that will end up in the energy market, in the manufacturing industry, or even the food and agricultural industry as well. So we're well connected with what happens in everyday life. And we do that worldwide. So if you look at all the major ports in the world, which are important to the oil trade, the petrochemical trade, or the liquefied gases trade, that's where Vopak has its facilities. And most important are Rotterdam and Antwerp area, the Houston area, Middle East, Fujairah, and the greater Singapore area. And all the different countries that you see here, we have with a small dot, that's where we have our presence. So that is what our company does. So we are a service provider. And drones offer really a big opportunity for Vopak. And I will explain that a little bit through what the challenges are that we are facing. To safely store the products that Vopak is handling, these are can be very dangerous and hazardous products. We regularly need to inspect the tanks, the pipelines, the jetties. And that requires our people to potentially enter unsafe areas. So we will do everything to keep it safe, but still it can be unsafe. Now, our focus is to make these areas safer. And what that basically means is we want to use drones to inspect these facilities, so that people do not have to enter a storage tank or have to go to dangerous places to inspect the assets. So that's one focus. Our second one is that for almost maybe 50 years or 60 years, our assets are inspected in the same way as they've been done forever. So people, inspectors, they come with documents and they check the assets and they write down what is well, what is wrong, and what needs to be repaired. All that information will be typed into a computer. It goes into a PDF file. It goes into a filing cabinet. But basically, the data is not used to its fullest. It's basically dead data, and we want to make use of the data much more. And finally, our challenge is the petrochemical industry is very conservative. Because nothing should go wrong in the petrochemical industry. That also means we are very careful in adopting new technologies. So we should really try and test technologies before we really start using them. And that means that drone usage, new technology usage goes much slower than maybe you see in other industries, just because of the safety aspect. But drones are not yet also without their challenges. I think drones are used widely. Maybe you have your drone at home, but we require a little bit more of a drone than you just can buy it from an ordinary store. So if we want to use drones in our environment, drones should be explosion proof. So if there is an area with a combustible substance, you don't want to have a drone with an ignition source to come into that area. If you go into a tank, that's the second bullet, you lose GPS signals. So normal drones fly with GPS, but if you don't have it, then the drone doesn't know where it should go. Thirdly, we have all these drones, but we want to capture data in a structured way. It's a little bit like maybe with your phone. You have thousands of pictures, but you don't know what to do anymore with the pictures. Well, that's exactly what you get if you use drones let's say, in our industry. You need to have a way to use the data. Now, fourth question, are drones safe enough to enter certain areas? Because you introduce a flying object or a driving object in an area where normally things do not fly. So we need to make sure that it's safe to fly or safe to operate. And finally, is it proven technology? Because if we want to use a drone, we want to make sure it really works at all times, so that it can't just fail. So we want to make sure that the technology used is proven, tested, tried, and maybe 10 times before we really can adopt it in our environment. So if you solve all these problems, I think we have a lot of opportunities to make our work much more efficient in Vopak. And therefore we are testing drones quite extensively. And I will show you a few drones, and you will see that they are all very different. Now, where is the benefit in tank inspection? As I shared a little bit, maybe a tank is 50 meters high, 60 meters wide, so they're very big. And if you want to inspect the tank, you have to clean the tank, or you have to empty the tank, you have to clean the tank, then you have to go into a tank, you have to build scaffolding to go up in the air, and then people will go step by step, check every part of the tank. Now that takes 6 months at least for one tank. So that costs a lot of money, but you have a lot of people involved. And in the end, that could be a hazardous situation. So our first drone, which you see here on the left-hand side, is a tank robot that we put into a tank which was still filled with naphtha, which is a feedstock product for the petrochemical industry. Now, if that is successful, you don't have to clean the tank for 6 months and empty and all that, what I just shared. You can just have the drone floating in product and inspect the tank, and our customers can continue to use the tank, and we don't have to switch off the operations for a while. So this tank is this was the first time in the world that a robot would go into such a liquid. Now on the right hand side, you see again a very different drone. So this drone is a little bit like a fly on the wall. This drone was used to attach to pipelines and to see if there's corrosion or there are damages to pipelines. In our terminals, we might have 100 kilometers of pipelines. And unfortunately, all these pipelines are in places which are difficult to reach for people. Right? So if you want to inspect, you have to crawl under the pipeline, or you have to get a big crane to lift a large section of a pipeline. So it's a lot of work, but we do want to know if these pipelines are safe, or there's a damage, or there is some corrosion, which can all happen. Now, what this drone does, it will attach itself to a pipeline, and basically it will drive along the pipeline, and with sensors, it will test the thickness and corrosion and everything of the pipeline. And that will save us time, but it will also make sure that we know much better if our pipelines are safe. Now, Björn, maybe you can share the movie on the tank inspection in Singapore.
We're very happy to share that at Sebarok Terminal, we've launched a proof of concept for an in-service robotic tank inspection. This is the first time anywhere in Asia that such a deployment is taking place. And also this is the first deployment in the world of Vopak.
Deployments in live environments like we've done in Sebarok give great insights to further develop the technology into a mainstream application in the years to come. This methodology ticks all the right boxes. No confined space entry, no waste or emission associated to tank cleaning, and no impact for our customers as the tank remains in service throughout the entire inspection.
We place safety first. Some of the design features that we have in it are the flame-proof enclosures, the pressurized enclosures, the purging and pressurizing with nitrogen. We make sure everything is done in a methodical, safe method.
We are pleased with the outcomes of this trial at the Sebarok Terminal. This trial is able to yield high amounts of valuable field data not found in a test environment. We have certainly gained valuable experience for deploying in-service robotic tank inspection technologies at more Vopak locations.
During a normal tank inspection, we have to take the tank out of service, we have to gas-free clean it, and people have to enter the tank to conduct the inspection, and customers are unable to use it. With this robotic tank inspection, there is no need for this confined space entry anymore. With this robotic tank inspection, we are able to continue to use the tank, which will have significant benefits for the customers. This technology helps us to plan in advance the scope of work and make a detailed plan on what needs to be done to this tank. When we take it out of service, we can minimize the time needed to do the repairs.
This will be the future of how we handle tank inspections.
So those were two types of drones. Now you see again different drones. So what is applicable to drones, it really is fit for purpose. And drones should also be very flexible to have different sensors to be attached to it. So on the left-hand side, you see a drone that's, instead of being a fly under a pipeline, it's actually crawling up the outside of a tank with a sensor that measures the thickness of the steel. Because we want to know if the steel of the tanks is always at a certain level. And with the drone, you can let it go up and down the wall, and with the sensors, you immediately see if the thickness of the walls is still good enough. So that's another type of drone. Now, thirdly, you see here on the right-hand side, you see a drone that can land and touch water, so a waterproof drone. Because we also want to know that the jetties where we receive those seagoing vessels, they're still in good shape, and the piles and everything, the concrete, is not damaged. So therefore we've designed, or with our partners, have special drones that can touch the water and see images from the water side. So and potentially we will have other drones as well for other purposes. Björn, maybe you can share the video on the internal tank inspection with the drone.
We believe that innovation is key to stay competitive in our market. Of course, with keeping our values in mind, that is why we do the research towards the possibilities to use drones with our inside tank inspection.
Well, we use the drones because normally we use scaffolding or we use an alpinist, and it's difficult to build and more efficient to use the drone instead of it.
We do the inspection. It will take 2 to 4 hours, sometimes a day if it's a complex inspection. And at the end of the day, the client has all the data. and can continue working on the tank itself.
The observations are captured digitally, so they're not only in the head of the inspector anymore. And these images are stored in a 3D model. The benefit of using the drone is that it can shorten maintenance time, and this makes the tank earlier available for our clients to store their products.
Okay. One of the challenges that we have, let's go back one slide. Is that you get all this amount of data. So the next step is that the data that is collected with the drones is collected in a digital platform. And here you see an example of a digital platform which we call the digital twin. So you will have the storage tank, which is here in a digital format, and actually see for each item in the of the storage tank you will see highlights. So maybe on this in this example there's some damage on this spot. Maybe the drones detected that here the wall thickness of the steel is getting a little bit thin, or that here the tank is settling a little bit, so it's getting a little bit it's not horizontal anymore. It could be some corrosion, and there could be some gas emissions. You see that that's a 5. Now, what this will then do is that the IT platform will use artificial intelligence to analyze all the data, and it will pop up on the screen of our tank inspectors, and they will be able to see, hey, I have to have a look at this specific spot because this is where there could be potential damage. But next to that, the data that is now in this platform will be there for 10, 20 years, and then you can use all the inspections that are done with the drones to create a model. What will be the future maintenance of the tank? What are areas we have to focus on? What goes wrong? What goes well? And that will allow us to start predicting even when will the tank need repair. So you can already then say, well, maybe in 3 years, not today, but in 3 years you have to do certain maintenance. Or maybe you don't have to do any maintenance for the coming 5 years. So you can extend the life of the asset, which of course has huge cost savings. But if you can combine the data of all the tanks we've inspected, maybe you can even improve the design of the tanks. So having this digital twin available, and then using the artificial intelligence combined with it, will really create or I wouldn't say a revolution, but it will really improve the way we manage our assets, and therefore it will improve the safety of the way we operate. Now, what will it do with the people? Because you've seen in our videos, we have a lot of people working at Vopak, and you see drones and artificial intelligence. So what will it do with our people, and will it replace them? I'm pretty sure it will not. So for today, our people are fully responsible, and it's their knowledge that will help us to inspect tanks and to do it safely. But we also want to put them in a better working environment and not have them go into unsafer areas. The drones will help them to only inspect places that require inspection. So they will go to a very focused area, and with that, they also will have new skill sets they have to learn. So from becoming a paper, they have to have digital skill sets. So their jobs will be much more interesting than it was today. They will also have more time to focus on other activities as well. So they can expand their work and still have a good job or work with Vopak. So this is much more a changing of working than it will replace people. So drones really will help us and will help our operators to do their work better. Then, the question that Stem asked, well, what will it mean for you? Well, I can only say that you are in a very privileged time and moment, because you have all these new technologies like drones, robots, small computers, cheap computers, which are all available for you to experiment with. So you are exposed to the latest, newest technology that is out there, and you can get it from all over the world. And if you don't know how it works, you can get the information from all over the world how it works. Then you can combine that with all the new education and the tools you get at your school, at your university or high school. So that will mean if you combine those things and you keep on looking beyond what is possible, you are ready for the future. You don't have to learn to be digital, you are already digital. So it will only mean that you are more equipped and better equipped to work in the industry or to work in other places, or even start up your own company and accelerate what we are doing today. So I can only encourage you to keep on learning and keep on using all the technologies that are out there, and then have a great future on that. Thank you.
Well, many thanks, Martijn, for this really interesting presentation. We now have time to answer some questions from the audience. And the first question we received relates to the petrochemical industry in general. So the question is, how has the petrochemical industry changed over the last decade, taking into account the recent advantages of electric-based technologies?
Well, of course, I'm not a chemical engineer, so I can't say too much about the electrical-based technologies, but you do see that the efficiency, the continuous drive to produce more efficient petrochemicals and reduce emissions and create a higher yield of the production process is really advancing the petrochemical industry. So you see a larger scale, lower cost, and more safer operations. So that's definitely a continuous trend in this industry. There's a lot of high-tech technology continuously being implemented and upgraded.
And how do you see that development in the future? So where will this go in, say, the next decade?
The challenge definitely is to become emission-free. You see a strong trend on bio-based chemicals, which are growing, but also you see a strong demand, continuous strong demand for having stronger plastics and more application of plastics. So you will see that there will be a lot of focus on those items to make all the products we use lighter and stronger. So that that steel is being replaced by plastics, that you have more degradable type of plastics. That will be a trend that will continue to develop.
Okay. I now want to ask you a question that relates more to your personal career path. So I was wondering what actually inspired you to start at Royal Vopak in the first place, and also maybe take your studies into account as well. So how did you decide after high school to do what you did?
Well, of course, that's it's maybe a little bit in my own nature. So I wanted to explore the world, and I saw this opportunity to study in Germany, study in the UK, and I took that opportunity, and it was a very enriching experience because suddenly you come into a let's say a group of people which come all over Europe. So your world opens up. So that has been very exciting. And after my studies, I actually looked for a company that could offer me similar type of experience. And I do have a passion for big ships, big tanks, big industry. It's quite impressive if you see it. So Vopak came at my path, and they offered me a job in Germany. So yeah, that was a great start. And since then, I have a passion of exploring new things, and also within my career path, I was offered the opportunity to also develop that a little bit myself. So by taking that opportunity, I was able to go through various countries, and also every time in new positions, learning more about different skills and technologies. So yeah, that's it's also a little bit if you want to get the opportunity, it should be possible to create them for yourself as well.
And so there are also some students watching this webinar. So do you have some particular advice to students that are interested in technology? What kind of educational or career path that you could suggest?
Definitely, of course, technical universities are of course a very good, or technical schools are very good application for good studies to start with. But what is also very important is that technology is also, you can translate it to the real world. So if you can combine both, and you have all the skills to make great drones or to make other technology, but you also have a good eye on what it can be used for, then you can create new products or new companies. So I would definitely advise keep a very broad mindset, but also try to really understand the technical requirements, and being able to do it yourself, of course, is key in that. So if you are able to build your own drone, that's already a first step, and then see what can you improve and learn more about that.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, you mentioned these technical skills and tinkering generally and playing with technology. So do you have any advice maybe on how teachers can teach this, or educators can convey these skills to their students? What can they do very concretely to help them achieve this?
Make it sometimes very practical for students. Make use of a Raspberry Pi or other type of technology that is out there, which is, well, not extremely expensive and definitely able to be used by students to open up different skill sets. And with that, you might open up a new window for students to explore. And if you excite, in the end, if people get excited about things, it's not anymore about teaching. It's more about guiding and making sure that they have everything in place to be successful. So I would just, as I said in the beginning of the webinar, please have an open mind and see what's out there to excite everybody.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Okay, now I would like to go back to what your job looks like very concretely, because you shared some insights on drones and also your study and career path. But now, say it's a Monday morning and you go to the office, or nowadays maybe it's your home office. But like, what does a typical working day look like for you?
as we operate globally, typically it starts with working with my colleagues in Asia. So we have to see what commercially is going to happen for our IT together with our Asian colleagues, and also if we are looking at acquiring certain startup companies in Asia, working together with them in the morning time zone. Next to that, it's also designing, developing, and creating new materials and the planning to advance our commercial goals, which we have on IT. So that's what I do with my colleagues in the Netherlands. Yeah, and then finally it ends up at the end of the day with our colleagues in the Americas, in North America and Latin America. A little bit in the same, but at different moments of how do you say, where they are in adopting the new technologies or understanding or bringing them together with new technology companies. So it's a lot of video conferencing, unfortunately, but it's also working with the different cultures and the different requirements of all our businesses out there.
Mm-hmm. So very interesting, actually, and also very diverse. Now, you mentioned also different cultures, and you work with people from all over the world. So do you think that a cultural skill set is also necessary, or do you think that is something you use?
Definitely being adaptive to different cultures is very important. And yeah, what is really important then is to really listen and appreciate the other culture. So people express things in a different manner, behave in a different manner, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they have a different intention. So if you open up yourself to learn about how a different culture works, how they, those people or that culture is successful in doing the way they are doing it, actually is very enriching, and you can achieve more, and you create friends all over the world.
Yeah, and that's really nice, actually. And so it's also, communication skills next to the technical skills that are needed from the technical point of view, of course. It's also about communication, I imagine.
Yes, definitely. So you have to adapt the way you communicate, and you also need to be aware of your own cultural deficit. Dutch people they also have their cultural deficits. So you also have to be mindful in the way you interact with other people. Mm-hmm. And with that, adjust your style as well. So you need to relate to the other party.
And apart from this, you mentioned your working day. Are there any challenges that you face on a day-to-day basis, or maybe in a project that you're working on? So what are challenges, just to give also a realistic picture of what your job is about? What are the challenges?
Some of the challenges do relate to adoption of technology. So we want to, as a company, further accelerate the use of these type of new technologies like drones. But if you have been doing your work for many years, it doesn't necessarily mean that something new is immediately received as very good. It could be a threat to your work, or you perceive it as a threat. So one of the challenges is to find a way, together with the drone company, to find a way with the colleagues to make them adapt and see that this technology offers opportunities, and then see how can we create value together. And that requires carefully understanding the issues. It also requires to identify how can we bring this forward? So that is one challenge. I think secondly, that comes with the cultural aspect. We are trying to do the same in China or maybe in North America, and that they have a very different approach to those challenges. So then we really need to adjust that process. And lastly, I guess the challenge is that we are doing a lot of new things, and we also need to want to make money with new things. So it's also a challenge about understanding the technical requirements to create a good commercial proposition that people actually say, yes, I want to buy. So you also really sometimes you have to go back to the basics, understand the basics, and then build up your business case and sales proposition. And therefore, you need all your analytical skills and technological knowledge.
Mm-hmm. So actually, as we're having this question and answer session, I think we're discovering that a lot of different skills and a very diverse skill set is actually needed, because now you mentioned also more business and entrepreneur kind of skill set, right? So maybe do you have any suggestions on how students can practice these kind of skills, or how teachers and educators can support the students in that?
Now, I think it's also about your mindset. So maybe you have the idea that if you work for a big company, that runs like itself. In the end, you have to be entrepreneurial always. So but that means to me to have an open mind. To discover new things, and then also take that step to work in a different environment and continue to seek the opportunities in your work. I think that's a skill set that I think you cannot learn. It's also about a mindset you have to take. If you sit back and wait the world to come to you, I would say that you start walking and discover the world for yourself. And that's not always easy because you have to continuously adapt. But with that, you'll be more successful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I see. And I mean, I think that on the one hand, it's true that you need to have a mindset. But on the other hand, there are also a lot of workshops or competitions. I will come back to one later towards the end of this webinar, where both teachers and educators, but also students can participate and also practice a different kind of skill set, or help help their pupils develop these skills. As a matter of fact, we have one question from a student who's asking, or who's writing, there has been news recently about drones for in-house use to ensure that nobody's robbing your house or to check if the fire is on. So do you think we will all end up one day with our own personal drones?
No, I definitely think that could be the case. Imagine this, I think, was an Amazon example, but to have a drone that will automatically detect what's going on in your house and things a little bit before you to help you be safe or to do other activities. I think that those are applications that we might not have thought of, or that you need it, but actually it could be quite useful if you want to inspect the outside of your house. Instead of taking a ladder, you have a drone that can just do whatever that needs to be done. It's of course much easier. And if you're away and something happens in your house, you can just push a button and you'll get a real life check of what's going on. I can imagine that could be quite nice. On the other hand, it also means, and that's the drone technology allows for it, but there's also data, and in the end, who owns the data that is gathered from your house. And I think you have to balance that also as part of the technology, because the business model is not the drone. in the end, the business model is the data.
And yeah, I think we will not only see what the future holds here, but we can also, yeah, we can all influence the future in the decisions that we're making. So I think this is something very exciting to look forward to. Now, we also have a question from a teacher. Yeah, let's take this as the last question. So this teacher is asking if my students ask whether they should study chemistry or engineering to work in drone development in the petrochemical industry, which one of these would you recommend? So chemistry or more the engineering side?
No, I think it would be the engineering side. So the challenges that are with drones is really the sensors, miniaturizing the technology, the GPS, automatic flying. So engineering and maybe even engineering in IT are key to drones.
Mm-hmm. All right. Thanks a lot for this really interesting question and answer session. Now, before we wrap up, I would like to raise the attention to one competition that we're running right now. So this is the STEM Alliance Dell Policy Hack competition, and it's running across Europe at the moment. In this competition, and this will be interesting for all teachers and educators joining today, you can submit STEM challenges that you face on a local or regional level and come up with solutions on how ICT can solve these. You can win 1 out of 4 very exclusive spots in the Policy Hack, in which you get the opportunity to discuss your proposal with ministries of education, with policymakers, and with industry representatives, as well as other education stakeholders. Now, to be more precise, you can submit your challenge in 1 out of 4 themes, which cover the topics of diversity, learning environment and content, skills, as well as lifelong learning. So check out the competition here. We have the link, and submit your challenge by the 15th of October. Finally, we're now sharing with you the link to the feedback survey. We would really appreciate if you can take about 3 minutes of your time to share your thoughts and feedback on today's webinar, so we know how to improve in the future. And I mentioned it before, it is crucial that you validate your attendance in this webinar via the digital signature list. Only if we can prove that you attended today, we will be able to continue organizing events like this one. And also, if you would like to receive a certificate of attendance, you need to fill out this signature list and submit your email address so we can send you the certificate. Please note, for everyone who's watching the recording, that only participants who attended the webinar will be able to receive a certificate. Now, the recording of this webinar, together with the slides, will be available on the STEM Alliance website in the following days, and we will send you a follow-up email with all the details that you need. So thank you so much, Martijn, for your presentation and your answers in the question and answer session, which was very interesting in my opinion. So thanks to everyone for participating. And this is all from my side. So take care, stay safe, and have a nice day. Bye-bye.
Bye.